Hey, what's going on everyone? In this review, I'll be taking a look at one of my favorite variations of the Zeta Gundam, Amuro Ray's custom Zeta Plus A1. As usual, I'll be reviewing this master grade Gundam in 4 categories: the build, the appearance, the articulation, and the gimmicks, giving each a score from 1 to 5. Hopefully I can help you decide if you should pick up this kit. Now, as with all Gunpla, first you have to build it. Now, this kit came out way back in 2001, so naturally it's fairly dated by modern standards. But that doesn't mean it's lacking in interesting engineering though. I mean, this is a transforming mobile suit after all. There's tons of strange hinges all around this kit, as well as some really weird locations for polycaps. But unfortunately, the instructions don't really do a good job of explaining things. So needless to say, I can't really recommend this to a beginner. I say this from experience actually, because this was actually my very first master grade. My original build is practically held together with cement and glue, because I made so many mistakes. Anyway, outside of the confusing build, there are some elements that are quite ahead of their time. Like the rubber V-fin, so it doesn't snap off when you transform it, and there's braided pipes on the back of the legs. But there's still quite a few old school elements here, such as a few more bad nubs than usual, really shallow panel lines on the legs and wing binders, and of course a few screws. Also, just like an older kit, there is a little bit of painting to do. Thankfully it's just these lower wing binders. This whole wing section is essentially just a big white piece. You get a set of stickers for this red section, but they straight up don't look good and pop up all the time, so painting is a must. That wouldn't be that bad, but unfortunately this orangish red is damn near impossible to color match. I didn't even get close on my original build, so I ended up going a little bit overboard on the second attempt and repainted all of the orange red with this nice bright red for consistency. So the build, it's pretty dated, pretty confusing, and is annoying to paint. Having said that, I did enjoy this build, so I'll give the build for this kit a slightly above average score of 3.5 out of 5. Now let's take a look over his appearance. First off, the proportions are a little wonky, but nothing too bad. The legs are a little too long for my taste, but then again this is a Katoki designed mobile suit, so it's to be expected. I also have to remind you, I replaced all the orange red with bright red paint. A straight build of this kit has this kind of color over here. Maybe I'm biased here, but the orange red looks really toyish to me. I'm not a fan. I do like the warm off-white of the armor, as well as the gray of the inner frame though, so I left all that untouched. This kit has just the right amount of panel lines for me. Aside from the wings, all the panel lines are essentially just spicing up the design, but not to the point where they overload you. It is a little annoying though that they're so shallow, so whatever ink you're using is probably going to fade up within a week. The stickers on this kit are a mixed bag. The peel and stick are pretty standard, but you do get this cool Karaba Air Force decal for the legs. The dry transfers have some issues though. I'm not sure if they're just old or what, but they just didn't work that well for me. They just kept breaking. Still, I like that you get quite a few Zeta Gundam logos and of course Amuro's personal emblem. To sum up the appearance of this kit in one word, I'd say it's good. It's nothing amazing, but it doesn't make any major missteps. I'll give the appearance of this kit a solid 4 out of 5. Okay, it's time to take a look at his articulation. As always, let's start with the feet, or at least their connection to the ankles, since the feet have nothing going on. As with most Zeta Gundam model kits, the feet can move forwards and backwards pretty well, but they're kinda limited side to side. The knees are really interesting. You get a very solid 180-degree bend, but you also get a reverse bend for the transformation as well. The hips are just strange. See, for the transformation, the legs need to fold away from the waist, so anytime you try and move these legs, they end up separating. There is a locking mechanism to keep them in place, but it really doesn't work too well. So while on paper you should get all around good mobility, because of the complexity of the hips, you don't really get much aside from kicks. The large side skirts also don't help the matter. The combination of these strange legs and the confusing hip mounts make this kit really hard to get into solid standing poses. I highly recommend you pick up an action base when you get this kit. Of course, because this is an older master grade, it doesn't have an attachment point. So you're stuck using these crappy fork things, which limits the hip mobility even more. You get nothing from the chest, it's all components for the transformation. The shoulders have nothing going on aside from the usual 360 spin. The arms also have a 360 spin, as well as a 135-degree bend from the elbow, and the wrists are on the usual ball joints. You get the usual old style trigger finger split hands, but of course there's no pegs, so he's not going to be holding up any weapons. The head is on a single ball joint, so you don't get much out of it. Also, the head has a tendency to fall inwards for the transformation, which can be annoying. The wing binders are on a swivel and a hinge, so they can spin and tilt slightly. You can also move the lower wing binders out. The articulation of this kit is pretty strange. I mean, the legs have better mobility than other kits of this time period, but they're a little too complex for their own good. The rest of this kit just doesn't have too much to make up for it either. I'll give the articulation of this kit an average score of 3 out of 5. So aside from the mobile suit, what else comes in the box? Well, not much actually. First up is his beam rifle. Just by looking at it, you know he's not going to be able to hold this thing up. Not only is it the lack of pegs in the hands, but the butt of the gun is just too long, so you always have to have it tucked under his shoulder. Thankfully you can store it on the backpack, so it doesn't go to waste. Next up is this shield. I really like this design, and the emblem on the front is a nice touch. I do think it sits a little too far off from the arm though, but you know, it works as expected. Same for the beam sabers. They're not quite as cumbersome as the rifle though, so they aren't really hurt by the lack of pegs. You can also store them on the side skirt armor, so they're always on hand. That's really it for the weapons. There's no bazooka, no conventional gun, nothing. The real selling feature for this kit is his transformation into his Wave Rider mode. This transformation looks fantastic. I've always liked how complex Wave Riders are. I mean, yeah, it can make transforming this guy a bit of a hassle if you're not used to it, but they do a great job of concealing the Gundam's features. The transformation of this Zeta Plus is actually simpler than the Zeta Gundam 2.0's. However, this Master Grade came out a few years beforehand, so needless to say, it can still be a bit of a challenge. I will say you're not going to get this Wave Rider up in the air though. I mean, there's no action-based connector, so he's going to be grounded at all times. Thankfully, you do get a set of landing gear, so that's nice. And that's about it for the gimmicks. The weapons are kinda lacking, but the transformation almost makes up for it, at least if you could get it aerial. I'll give the gimmicks of this Master Grade a solid 4 out of 5. Okay, now let's wrap this up for an average score. The build was a 3.5 out of 5. It's dated and confusing, but interesting enough. The appearance was a 4 out of 5. Aside from how toyish the red is, it looks pretty good. The articulation was a 3 out of 5. It has some interesting bends, but is ultimately hampered by its transformation gimmick. The gimmicks got a 4 out of 5. He lacks weapons and pegs, but the transformation is pretty great. Tallying all that up, this kit receives a 3.6 out of 5, but more accurately it receives a 72.5%. That sounds about right to me. It's an older kit, so you kinda have to expect a couple of flaws. Still, it's an interesting build that looks pretty good if you put some work into it. But it's not something I'd recommend to just anyone. You sort of need prior experience with Gunpla to really build him properly, and you kinda need to be interested in these more obscure suits to really enjoy this kit. Okay, thanks for watching, and feel free to check out my channel for more reviews. I think I'm up to like review number 20 at this point, maybe? I don't know. You can also ask any questions you have about this kit in the comments and recommend more kits for me to review. Alright, see you next time.